Hello, everybody. It's Helen Panos. Happy Thursday, and it's after 12 o'clock, so it's happy Thursday afternoon. And I wanted to come on today. First of all, let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. I am Helen Panos, Dynamis Learning Academy owner, a K through 12 tutoring business. We help children who reach their potential. And the way we do that is we listen to what a parent needs and match them with the right type of tutor so that we can help that child be successful in school and in life. Today, I am talking on our Lunch and Learn Summer Series. Thank you for joining us about RTI, 504 plans and IEPs, and just all these acronyms that you hear schools throwing around sometimes, and you may not know what they are. So first of all, I want to thank you for joining me for the Lunch and Learn weekly series. It started back in May, and we're already heading into August, right? So we've done many of these, so you can catch them all on my Dynamis Learning Academy Facebook page, my personal page, and or LinkedIn, and now it's going to YouTube. So those will be posted again, time and time again, so that you can see them. We find these topics to be extremely important. We've been very selective in what we are talking about, trying to provide value for parents so that they can use this information to help them with their children and their academics and their behavior, organization, all kinds of things. My assistant Bill will be coming on next two Thursdays to talk about some things to get ready for back to school. I'll come back on in August with back to school tips and some things related to gifted tutoring, how to get your child into a gifted program in public schools and things like that. So I just definitely want to, and how to set SMART goals. So I'll talk about that the next time in August. But Bill will be on the next couple Thursdays to talk to you about some great tips for back to school. So let's go on with what do all these acronyms that you hear mean? There are a lot of them, right? And the ones I'm going to hit upon today are RTI, 504, and IEP. This is usually a short session of 15 to 20 minutes, so I won't go into a lot of detail about them, but I definitely want you to at least know something about these because you've probably heard of them. So when you speak to a school representative, for instance, assistant principal, counselor, maybe a teacher, you'll probably hear all kinds of terms and letter abbreviations because that's what education's all about. And that may add some alarm to you, maybe not, but if you have a school-age child, that you've probably likely heard many acronyms, and those are used to describe processes, policies, programs. They're all used to help your child succeed in the academic environment. And by understanding how the processes work, you can calm your maybe apprehension while educating yourself on the best ways to take a team approach to helping your child succeed, because it is a team approach. I've definitely agree with that in terms of even tutoring. We connect with that child's teacher because I feel like it does take a village. It's the parent, it's the tutor, it's the teacher. So, and everybody, actually the teacher sees them the majority of the time if we think about the number of hours they have them, especially in elementary school. So, in this so we're going to examine the RTI process and how it works in conjunction with an IEP meeting and not, an IEP placement. I won't go into a lot of detail about that. That might be a whole other video I do later. But let's talk about the RTI process first. So to understand where your child falls in each area, educators will give assessments throughout the year. We know this, especially at the beginning of the year. They're going to be giving iReady possibly here soon. In August when they start back. And a lot of school systems are starting back August 1st, August 2nd, 3rd. Fulton DeKalb come in last August 8th. So we're not that far away, folks. I hate to say that. I know it doesn't feel like summer's over, but it is in terms of back to school. So some assessments that they're going to give them are formal, quizzes, tests, standardized tests. Some are informal. Those are observations, rubrics, and adultal records that teachers keep. So many pieces are used to determine where your child actually fits into this process. If your child's teacher has a concern about a certain area, then she will consult with her colleagues and assistant principal, possibly the counselor. And together they determine if there are further measures that are needed for your child. It may be determined that the teacher starts a process known as RTI. That's response to intervention. We'll talk about that in a minute. So what I want to do is talk about that scenario. It's like a pyramid. There's actually 3 tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3. But let me just say, it is a multi-tier approach to helping the early identification and support of students with learning and behavior needs. It's a first step that educators will use to determine what needs your child may have if the student is considered at risk at all or in a certain area. It could just be one area, language arts. It could be math. So it is basically, these are all essential components that are used, and they're all divided into tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3. These tiers must be implemented for the process to be successful. So, and let me just go through these tiers very briefly, because it would take me too long detail. Please reach out to me if you want more information about this. We can talk about it in a conversation on the phone. But tier 1 is usually like they first identify that your child's struggling and who might need additional support. So if the student's identified as being, quote, at risk through universal screenings and or results on statewide tests, they can use the Georgia milestones they just had in March and April. They might receive supplemental instruction during the school day in the regular classroom. The length of time for this step can usually be about 8 weeks. That's the maximum. Tier 1 is 8 weeks. At the end of that period, students showing significant progress are generally returned to the regular classroom program. Not showing adequate progress would mean you're moving on to tier 2. Your child would move on to tier 2. So that's more targeted interventions. Let's talk about tier 2 for a minute. If they did not make an adequate process or progress in tier 1, then they're going to be given interventions in small group settings, in addition to the instruction in the general ed classroom. So, but it will not exceed 9 weeks. That's what tier 2 does. And then if they are not showing intensive progress, they go on to tier 3. Tier 3 is more intensive. At that stage, if the student continues to show little progress, then they will be referred for a complete evaluation and considered for eligibility for special ed services under the law called IDEA 2004. That's Individual with Disabilities Act of 2004. And the data that is collected during those tiers, the other tiers as well, will be used to determine the special ed eligibility. So if you're interested in learning more about the process in terms of RTI, a lot of kids do go into RTI meetings. I jump in as an educational advocate for kids on an RTI meeting. It gives me a lot of information as a tutoring company. So Dynamis Learning Academy can set up a free consultation to talk to you about the RTI process and how that works. So please reach out if you need more information about RTI, because this Lunch and Learn series is just to give you a little bit of information. Now let's talk about the 504. If your child may not need an IEP, but they need a 504, they have, that's more of an individual, it's a plan. The IEP is an individualized education plan. That's a little different. But both are mandated by 2 different federal laws. The 504 is mandated by the Civil Rights Act and Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It's a little bit limited in scope, but it is in place for further, more comprehensive legislation known as Individuals with Disabilities Act, the IDEA. I just want you to know that in that particular case, you have usually a diagnosis of most typical ADHD, anxiety, dyslexia. I'd say those are the 3 top ones that I've seen in 504 plans. You will then speak with your counselor, your teacher, to see if maybe you can qualify. You might go to a pediatrician, get that diagnosis. You might need a psychologist and do a psychological to get that diagnosis. Again, you would have to have a diagnosis of some type of medical or behavioral, and then you can go into having a 504 meeting, which is an eligibility meeting, to see if your child's eligible for accommodations that can then be provided for your child. Typical accommodations are extended time, small group, and testing, frequent breaks. I'm trying to think of some others. Front row seating, preferential seating. Those are your common accommodations. So you could try a 504 plan before jumping into an IEP. An IEP is a little more detailed for sure. And it definitely has like qualifications are based on 13 categories of disability. So a lot broader and a much more detailed. Describes accommodations and modifications. That's more of an IEP. Formal written learning goals and objectives are formulated in a very lengthy IEP plan. You have an IEP meeting, a placement meeting if you are eligible. There's also IEP eligibility meetings. So you have to go into an eligibility meeting with a psychologist and a team of teachers. And then it determines if your child is eligible for this IEP. State receives funding for this, actually for these type of students. So this is a very important and very serious plan is the IEP plan. And definitely something to take a look at if you feel like your child might qualify for an IEP. You will probably know it by just talking to your counselors. Placement meetings do occur with an IEP. Usually a secondary meeting will take place after you've been notified that your child has moved through RTI, or it occurs when you as a parent have asked for a formal evaluation of your child. You definitely need to know your rights. So look up your rights for special ed and the special ed laws. And you can contact us and we can assist you and guide you the right way. An IEP meeting is not just another meeting. It's preparing, you should prepare for these type of meetings. The key to success is preparing and having a firm grasp on the knowledge of the content being presented in any of these meetings. So if you feel like you need an IEP advocate, give me a call. We can talk about that. Preparing for meetings as a parent where your child is the main focus can sometimes be not only daunting, but it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I have people that can come in with you. An education placement meeting is no different if you don't feel prepared. Here are some tips and strategies to help guide you if you do go through the special ed world. This is what happens, let's say, at a placement meeting for IEPs. Various school personnel is there usually, and assistant principals normally present, or the principal, classroom teacher, special ed teachers, special language and or OTs possibly, and school psychologists. How does the meeting progress? All of the meetings are, the personnel is introduced at first. The results of their child's evaluations are shared, because then they would have already done a psychological through the school. Various educational personnel will share charts and graphs and show where the standard is and where your child scores compared to others on those same charts. Recommendations are given for where to place your child for what is believed to be his optimal environment for success. As you discuss these options, words like accommodations and modifications show up, and they're used quite a bit in these meetings. For more information about accommodations and modifications, I would say see a blog post that I have. I have a series of blog posts about RTI 504 and IEP meetings, and you can go into my Dynamis Learning Academy.com website to get those. You might have to scroll back a little bit. I probably will be having a theme in August or September about IEPs and special ed 504s, all these plans. So for more information about that, again, go to my blogs on my website. After you decide the best option for your child, you will be given a chance to ask questions and ask for clarification of any of these items that you might have. So then forms would be signed and distributed. So, and then you'd have a yearly meeting. So this is a little bit of how RTI 504 and IEP meetings run on a 504. You have an initial meeting, then you have just an annual meeting every 3 years. That's called a re-eligibility meeting, and you may have to go back to a doctor and get that diagnosis re-evaluated. So a 504 meeting, again, only takes place yearly unless you ask and call because you see there's something going on in the classroom, or your teachers have pointed that out to you, that you see there seems to be more going on. Then you can call another 504 meeting throughout the year. Definitely, I want parents to be aware of all these acronyms, abbreviations, and know that these programs are out there to help your children. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to me. I'm going to put my website up here again, and my phone number, actually. There's my email and my phone number. And again, it's dynamislearningacademy.com. And that's DYNAMIS learningacademy.com is the website. Go to blogs, and you will find, if you scroll back, you will find a series of blogs on RTI 504 IEPs. I also have a video I'll post here soon. And if I find the link, I will put it here in the comment section that I did about 504s and IEPs and what the differences are. So I will do that. I will find that for you, and it's in my YouTube channel. So I will make sure that you can have access to that as well. I hope everybody has a great Thursday and weekend. And again, my assistant Bill will be on next Thursday at noon to talk to you about some tips on getting ready kind of for back to school and how to prepare and get kids mentally ready. Okay. Take care for now, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Bye for now.